everybody, welcome to Coffee with John. Looking forward to talking to Denis O'Shea. Denis, it's great to connect with you, CEO of Mobile Mentor. You're an IT company. You collab with Microsoft, and you go in and tell everybody if they're using too many things, if they're not using enough, what to use, and you get them in the right direction. We're going to talk about that. We got connected. You had sent over to me, your team sent over a 2026 endpoint ecosystem study, how employees engage workplace technology in the age of AI. That's a very important topic for many people right now, figuring out what that even means. And so I thought we could initially dive into that. And maybe you could share, to kick us off, some of the key takeaways from your study.
Sure. And thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much.
So the study was a study of 2,500 people across the USA, UK, Australia, New Zealand. So a pretty global study to understand that relationship between employees and the technology at work, the things that hinder them or empower them to do more. And we've done it 3 times now in 2022, 2024, just before AI became a big deal. And now in 2026, so we really dove into AI because it's such a huge factor in the workplace. And we were really trying to understand, what does it mean? Where are people extracting value? How is it being deployed in organizations? How are businesses getting ready to leverage and harness AI? And what does it mean for their employees?
So what does it mean? So what were some of the key takeaways?
Well, organizations are spending a lot of money on AI, and they're getting in a bit over their skis in many cases because the AI readiness work hasn't always happened. In some organizations it has, but in most it hasn't. So the biggest issue, the biggest gap is data security, data privacy. So most organizations have not organized and secured their data in a way that if you as an employee go and search for a W-2 or a draft offer letter or a performance improvement letter, something like that, you're probably going to find something that would embarrass the employer because those files and that data hasn't been organized and secured in the right way. Mm-hmm. AI will find everything. So anything that was lazily saved on somebody's desktop 7 years ago or was just saved somewhere temporary, that's going to pop when someone does a search with AI. So that's factor number 1. Data security is a big issue. Number 2, there's a bit of shooting in the dark and chasing shiny objects because most organizations have not defined their use cases. They haven't actually documented a hypothesis and said, we're going to give AI to this person doing this role, and we expect them to either achieve more, produce more, or take less time or whatever, and being systematic then about validating that hypothesis. To be able to say 3 or 6 months later, yes, we're seeing more output or shorter time per task or whatever, so that we can now pour gasoline on the fire, invest more in AI for that user or that role, or come to the conclusion that no, it's not working, we're not getting the benefits, pull back those licenses, give them to other people, and try a different hypothesis.
Yeah.
So that hasn't been done very well. And then probably the most critical thing we see is that organizations are not being very systematic about training people and rolling out AI effectively, and then measuring the impact so that they can answer the questions coming down from their board.
Yeah. So let's start there because I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing companies, 2 things. They're sometimes falling in love with the solution before they fall in love with the problem, to your point about not creating the proper use case. Yeah. And then regardless if they fall in love with the solution or the problem, they're purchasing and or customizing AI tools, in many cases spending a good amount of money, and in some cases a tremendous amount of money, which I think is an investment.
Yeah.
But then nobody's using it to the extent that they need to use it. They're not getting trained properly on AI. And one of the things that I see, Denis, is AI is a great tool. It's not the solution. And a lot of times people just don't have it in their habit stack. They don't know how to communicate with it, right? So let's kind of start there, right? So there's how do I communicate with this AI fill in the blank? And then where does the company need to begin to train more effectively, and how consistently?
Well, it's really interesting the way you framed it, because we see that AI is an interface, just like the smartphone was an
Yeah.
interface that we had to learn
Yeah, it's
about.
an interface. It's a tool. It's an interface, right?
And the internet was an interface, and we all had to learn and adapt, and businesses evolved. And as a result, many businesses died and many more businesses were created as the interface changed. AI is a new interface. Right
Correct.
now, people think about the work they do. They might think about email, Teams, creating Word documents, analyzing stuff in spreadsheets, or presenting presentations. In the future, we might simply talk to our AI and say, hey, today I need to be able to communicate the new strategy to this team, or I need to be able to figure out whatever happened in our sales last month, or I need to be able to, update something, and using AI to figure out whether it should be done as a slide, as an Excel spreadsheet, or a Word document, or whatever. And so the interface we'll work with will primarily be AI, and learning to do that and write good prompts that have appropriate context, and doing so in a way that's it's grounded in your enterprise data, so that every email you've ever sent, every Teams message, every document, everything that you've ever saved is accessible and can be used to come up with the right answer or the right result you're looking for.
Why do you think people have such difficulty with the prompt, with the prompts? How to communicate, how to kind of take it to, the next question, the next piece of the conversation. Where's the block there?
I think it's just understanding how large language models work, without getting technical about it, but being able to give enough context so that the tool can understand who you are, what you're looking for, or what role you're asking the model to play for you. Like, I use it a lot in my private life as well as work, and I'm a fanatic pickleball player. So I will often write a prompt and I say, you are a pro pickleball player, analyze this video clip and tell this dumbass all the things he's doing wrong and needs to improve.
Yeah.
And by telling it, you are a pickleball pro, and analyze the guy with the blue shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really clear then what's the job to be done.
Right. Yeah. That's a good example. I love pickleball. I haven't used it for pickleball or golf or tennis feedback, but I may actually start using it after that. And so, okay, so what is the responsibility of a company to train? That is, I think, the golden question right now, right? How do we roll it out? How do we train? How long do we train? Is it every day? Is it every week? Do we enroll people into training programs, training classes that don't interrupt their day? How do we make it short and concise, a little at a time, so it's not more overwhelming than it already is? How should companies be thinking about that?
That's a good question. And that will vary depending on the nature of the work people do, and how they like to learn, whether they're kinesthetic, audio, visual learners, whatever. The approach we probably get the most success with is when we're in a room with a group of people, 20 to 50 people. Somebody's up front presenting and showing things you can do. Somebody else is wandering around the back, able to see the screens of the people, to see where they're maybe getting stuck, or where they've got issues, and be able to walk up to them and help them in real time. And then walking people through and showing them, like a lot of the work we do is with the Microsoft platform, Microsoft Copilot, and showing them when you're in Copilot, you can choose any one of the Anthropic models. So Opus and Sonnet and all those models, or you can choose the ChatGPT models, and you can even use one model to do the job for you. Let's say you're analyzing a data, a survey. You can use one model like Claude to analyze it, but then get GPT to critique the analysis, or vice versa, or get both of them to analyze it side by side and give you both perspectives. And showing people you can do these things. I mean, the magic is seeing the way people light up and think, oh my God, I never knew you could do that. And that shared learning experience creates energy and it empowers people and motivates people, and then they tend to speak up a bit more and ask questions, and they don't feel so bashful about asking the next question. So we find that shared learning or the aha moments are happening together in a large format.
Yeah.
Very empowering, very energizing.
Talk about Copilot. Define it as if you were talking to a kindergartner.
Copilot is simply the user interface to AI in an enterprise environment. So Microsoft is not trying to win the war to be the best model, right? ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and DeepSeek, they're all investing billions and billions in the models. What Microsoft is trying to do is build an interface for enterprises to use AI securely in a way that's grounded in all their enterprise data and have a control plane to manage the experience. So that's why they're able to present to you the GPT option or the Claude option, and there would be others. So that's what Copilot is. It's simply an interface, the user interface to AI in an enterprise that also gives you access to everything you've ever written or every message or every document in your company.
And to keep it simple for a moment, if somebody's listening and they think, "All right, I want to, try Copilot," how do they get to it?
There's a free version, which you can use in Teams, I think, and on the browser, and do all the basic chat stuff like you would with if you've got ChatGPT. Then there's the paid version, which does all the automatic recording of your Teams meetings, creates a transcript. You can search by your name. Let's say you missed a meeting. You can simply show me where my name was mentioned or any actions for me or stuff like that. And then you can use the paid version to build spreadsheets, PowerPoints, Word documents, convert one to the other. We use it a lot for RFP responses. We get clients saying, putting out a tender, we need vendors to respond to this complex piece of work. We'll analyze their RFP. We'll analyze all our previous responses, all our case studies, all our technical documents, and draft the response to their request.
Yeah.
Copilot can do that in minutes in a way it would take a human days, literally days, assembling all this information.
What's going to happen to humans in the workforce 3, 4, 5 years from now with AI? Are there going to be, from your perspective, and because you're in the IT world, you're working with Microsoft, you collab with them, you're in companies, what's AI from your perspective replacing, and where are the opportunities? I think a lot of people may be listening to this right now thinking, my job is at risk. What am I going to do? Are there going to be no jobs? Is the world going to be universal base income for 85% of the world 5 years from now? What is the world going to look like? So you have a front row seat to a lot of it, and you can forecast and see the future with a lot of it. So what is your lens seeing?
I'll give you a macro and a micro lens. The macro lens I use to look at this is that people with good AI skills will replace people who don't have good AI skills.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is one person who is very good at using AI can now do the work of a team of people that don't have AI.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one child who works in a business where they're heavily encouraged to use lots of AI. I've got another child who works in a business where AI is blocked or not allowed. So we're going to see this binary economy almost play out. People who use the tools well will replace the people who refuse to or don't want to or are not allowed to. The micro view of this is, I'm looking at my own role as the CEO of a company thinking, can I learn this? Can I pivot fast enough? Can I lead my company into this era of AI? Or do I need to find somebody else who can do this better than I can? And I'm asking that question of all my exec team and all the people in my company saying, we need to learn faster than we want our company to grow. Because if we don't, we will be replaced, or we will need to replace ourselves with people who are better with this technology and can lead us into this new era better. So I truly believe it's about people with tools. The tools won't replace the people on their own, but people who are really good at using AI will replace people who are not good with AI.
What roles within a company are the safest, or just what industries or what positions, or do you think are the safest from AI as far as being extinct?
I would say that the safest positions will be, or the safest roles will be those that learn to use the tools well and stay ahead of the curve. Um, where we're going to see the greatest turmoil will be coding. The changes there are extraordinary. I'll tell you two figures that came out of an Anthropic report in end of last week. 80% of all the new code in the Anthropic Claude platform is written by Claude itself. So AI is developing AI. So that's really interesting concept to get our heads around, 80%. And according to their telemetry and all their view of all the coding happening around the world, the average coder is pumping out 8 times more code this year than they were last year.
Since Claude.
Yeah.
Since Claude Code, yeah.
Yeah. So coding is going to change massively, and not just writing code, but then building a test harness or whatever to test the code, and then document the code, and then write the product specs or brochures or data sheets or whatever. That linear process gets massively automated. So I see good coders will need to elevate their thought process and become good architects, thinking end to end, thinking about systems. Same with copywriters. People who used to write good copyright for marketing or whatever, journalism, they need to go up a level or two, because so much of the raw copywriting will get done by AI. And so it's really thinking about implications and next steps and the meta level of the information we're writing. Exec roles, I don't see huge change in exec roles, because a lot of exec roles are spent dealing with people issues, strategy questions, dealing with the complex nuances of business. I don't see AI changing those dramatically, and I don't see AI changing frontline work. Like, one of the things our study showed is this massive inequality in organizations. Execs and knowledge workers are getting AI tools and some AI training. Frontline workers are getting no AI tools and no AI education.
Define a frontline for somebody who may not know what that position is.
Nurse on her feet all day in a hospital. Somebody in logistics, supply chain, delivery, somebody in retail, somebody doing some kind of service work, house calls, trades, people working with their hands and their feet.
Why are they getting ignored?
I'm not sure why, but the pattern is that organizations seem to be deploying the AI tools to people who sit in front of computers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the priority.
And so if somebody's listening to this and thinking, all right, you have an IT company, you collab with Microsoft, what should we be teaching the frontline workers, and what tools within Microsoft should those be?
Well, if the organization is already using the Microsoft tools for email and Teams and Word and Excel and all that, then absolutely Copilot is a great place to start, because you can access all of that data. And so learning to use Copilot, say, on a smartphone, out and about, if you are a frontline worker, you're out doing service calls or whatever it is, using the camera, using the microphone, gathering information, being able to use that together with your enterprise data. That's that intersection of the real world external data with enterprise data. That's where the value is going to be unlocked.
So just to kind of summarize, companies with the frontline workers that you're talking about, and any others that fall into that category, there should really be a push with Microsoft Coworker in the field that then connects internally to everything that everyone has access to.
Correct.
Right. And whatever that is for a company, that is going to be a very important bridge. And so the company that is aware of that begins to shift over to that. What type of competitive advantage will they have after 12 months from now?
Speed, cost efficiency, and reduced rework. Like, an example comes to mind is people going on site doing site visits or inspections of some sort. simply using the camera to record what they see or take a bunch of photos and upload that save it straight to OneDrive or something like that. And then letting AI do the analysis and figure out how to interpret all that and come up with a defect list or an action list or a report will save people a ton of time doing copy pasting and regurgitating data.
Yeah.
There's like so much manual work that can be chopped out.
So in your study, I just want to kind of highlight a couple of things. You talk about, there's section 1 is productivity is still fighting security, which you mentioned. The AI enabled gap, which we've been talking about. Frontline workers are falling behind, which we addressed. And then the conclusion, which is AI raises the stakes, we've discussed, and the foundation still matters. Talk about the foundation and the framework that you look at when you go into a company. The bedrock foundation, if it's not, drilled into the bedrock, there's going to probably be a problem. That's falling in love with the solution, not the problem.
Yeah.
And so how do you come in and help raise awareness to fall in love with the problem? So you're really at the bedrock foundation, and then build a framework for them to transform.
Great question. We look at 5 things as part of that bedrock foundation. We look at the definition of the use cases. Has the organization actually documented how they want people to work differently in the future with AI? Have they secured their data in a way that, centralize it all in one place, have some data security policies, and maybe some data sensitivity labels. So if you've got healthcare information or any financial information, having that labeled as sensitive data that won't show up inappropriately in an AI search. Do they have a training methodology, a way of educating their people on new technology, new ways of working, new tools and processes? The 4th one is, have they got the ability to build agents, AI agents in their organization, and not just build them, but manage them? Because what we're expecting to happen is there's going to be a mushroom cloud of agents. It's just going to go bananas. And so there needs to be a control plane or a governance layer above all these agents, because every one of them is going to be accessing different systems and data and sharing data everywhere. And there needs to be some management over that. And then the last thing is the governance and ROI and the disciplined approach to saying, we're going to do something, we're going to treat it as an experiment, we're going to measure it, and then we're either going to kill it or we're going to scale it, depending on the results. And just having the discipline to keep doing that.
Right.
So those are the 5 things we look at in our AI readiness assessment: use case definition, data security, training, readiness to deploy agents, and then some way of measuring systematically what's working and what's not.
Great. It's a great framework. All right, let's do a quick speed round. You've got a lot of books behind you. What's a book that's made a big impact on you?
The Last Place on Earth: The Race to the South Pole, back in 1909. Fabulous.
Oh, that seems really interesting. If you could have coffee with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, it probably would have to be Elon Musk, because he's just such a polarizing, crazy guy.
Yeah. I just interviewed Eric Jorgensen, who wrote the Book of Elon. It was a great interview. He spent, I think, 5+ years researching him. And it was great. He's a popular response on the show when I ask people that.
Yeah, right.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
The future we see is the future we get.
Okay. Step 1 for everybody who's listening to move into the AI world more effectively.
Contact Mobile Mentor and ask us to do an AI readiness assessment for you. And because we're on your podcast, we'll do it free.
I love it. Denis, this was great. I want to end recapping one thing, which you said a lot of really important things. And I want you to tell everybody where they can connect with you. But I think one of the most important things you said is the responsibility we all have to learn and study and really understand AI. That one person who really understands the tools and knows how to use AI is going to ultimately beat out a team of people who don't use any AI. You know, we're still in the infancy stages of a lot of this as people are figuring it out. One of the things I recommend is that people spend 5 minutes a day playing around with a lot of the different technology, playing around with AI, and not resisting it, because it is here, and we kind of have no control over not, you know, being able to use it. So I think this is great. Denis, tell everybody where they can connect with you and learn more about you.
Probably on LinkedIn. It's the only social platform I'm on. So Denis with one N and O apostrophe SHEA. And the company is Mobile Mentor.
Great.
Find me there.
You know, I think as I coach people all over the globe, and one of the things that I think is a constant that I see in people who want to grow is they're always looking to learn something new, right? That I would say is a through line of everybody. And today, I think where we need to be careful is the 80-20 rule, you know, which you can apply in a lot of ways, I think is becoming kind of a 90-10 rule, because people are very stressed and overwhelmed, and they're not creating the time to learn AI. They're not taking the time. And I think people are going to wake up 6-12 months from now and look back and say, I should have spent 5 minutes a day, 1 minute a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever those minutes are, to think of things in minutes, to begin to learn the technology. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and you asked me the question before about a piece of wisdom. Somebody told me about 15 years ago, if you want to become an expert on something, just spend 10 minutes a day on it and read about it, because every day you will learn something, some small thing, which you can then share with people.
Correct.
Because they then see you as somebody sharing something on that topic. They will bring other things to you,
right,
and forward things. And all of a sudden they start perceiving you as an expert. You might not be yet,
right,
but you've got edgy new information on that topic.
Yeah.
And over time, it accumulates really, really quickly. So
Correct.
Just 10 minutes a day,
yeah,
consistently doing a thing, learning a thing, reading a thing, it accumulates. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. It
compounds
in a big way. Denis, this was great. Give them your LinkedIn handle one more time.
It's just Denis O'Shea, all one word, DenisOshea.
Okay, great. And you can reach me at johndwoskin.com. Denis, this was great. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John. Legend.